Hello, this is David Hilster. I'm a critical thinker, dissident scientist, and if you are not science woke, then this is the place for you. No, I'm not talking about flat earthers, climate change deniers, or Trump. I'm talking about the Big Bang, relativity, plate tectonics, particle physics, any fundamental that has to do with physics or cosmology. There are literally thousands and thousands of scientists from around the world who have been working for decades outside the mainstream, who have identified problems, who fix those problems, who are proposing new theories and models. You won't find anything like this on YouTube, so make sure you go right down below, hit the subscribe button, the little bell next to it, and you will be alerted to when our next video drops. Well, I'm going to be talking about Science Woke today. I'm back from the CNPS 2018, and it was a grand success. You can always learn from other critical thinkers and being together with other critical thinkers, and it was just a ball. And you can see them all online, but if you go to youtube.naturalphilosophy.org, we have all 28 videos online. Some of them have a little bit of audio problems, but they were broadcast live. I hope some of you guys tuned in. It was really a lot of fun. We're going to get it totally right next year. I pushed the wrong buttons and audio problems, but that was great success, and I want to thank everybody who participated in that. So I also want to thank here a subscriber of mine. Her name is Lisa, and she wrote this wonderful thing about a month ago, or a little bit more than a month ago. She says, I'm digging your video series because I have thought for a long time that there has to be some sort of scientific establishment, since there's a political establishment and a medical establishment, blah, blah, blah. So I like alternative research and stumbled upon your channel the other night. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm spreading the word to the best of my ability. Love and kisses, hugs and kisses. Thank you so much, Lisa. And she's talking about what now I call science woke. She's saying, hey, yeah, where does this all come from? Well, let's take a little bit of history. I do have a master in linguistics. I'm not an etymologist, not an entomologist. An entomologist studies bugs. An etymologist studies the origin of words. And the word woke probably came before, but it really came into fashion in the politics in the 2015, 2016 during the presidential election here in the United States, where I became politically woke with Bernie Sanders, and I found out why my salary was staying the same for 16 years, and all the inequality the income inequality is a big problem around the world. And of course, now you have racially woke, and we find out that no, we are not racially equal, that there are big problems still that we have to address. Ecologically woke, yes, we are destroying the planet. We're raising all this. For instance, the UN says stop eating meat, folks, because 51% of the greenhouse gases comes from us creating meat. That, of course, then when we eat, well, that destroy the planet, dump stuff into the Gulf of Mexico, makes these dead zones huger than Texas, etc. And of course, then we have health woke, because myself, I was told I had heart disease. You had to live with it because that was genetic. Guess what? Changed my diet to a whole plant-based diet, reversed it. Wow, I am health woke as well. What about big science? It certainly cannot be innocent of keeping us asleep. Well, what is that? Oh, science woke isn't. Let's say what it isn't. It isn't fighting flat earthers, fighting climate change deniers, fighting war on science or Trump. These are all distractions. They're political distractions because they have financial distractions, because the rich want to get more money. They want to control things. And basically, they're just wanting, yes, to fight about, oh, look at, hey, you guys, they're ruining the climate. So you look at that, hey, they don't believe in science anymore because they just want all the ecological wokeness that we've had over the decades they want to throw out. But that's not what's happening in the big science, because they're watching this go on and they're going, oh, this is great. Let them all be distracted while we keep you asleep. And that, again, they're all distractions, but they're not produced. These things are, when you see T-shirts on Facebook that are trying to say, hey, we're forgetting about science, we've got to teach science, science, science. What they're not telling you is the science that are being taught isn't the truth. We are being told truth. The science establishment, what is that? Well, science, what are they doing to keep us asleep? Science establishment does not allow us a dissent. You cannot disagree with them. Universities do not allow critical thinking to challenge fundamental theories. Try it. Karazani had 2 grad students, sent them to 2 prestigious universities with a very simple experiment to do to show special relativity wrong. And both of the professors who would listen to these kids sat them down, closed the door, and said, you want a career in physics? If you do, don't do this. That's the way. Don't do this experiment. That's the way they handle any dissent. Science evangelists never question mainstream science, because their goal, I'm not here to question it. I'm here to tell you it because it's so hard to understand. We'll talk about that later. And they evangelize it. That is, they get out there and they preach it, and they chastise you if you do not accept it. Or they go, well, you know, well, we'll talk about that later. The science establishment does not teach critical thinking. That's not what they're out to do. They're to teach you truth, which really doesn't make sense. Truth should come from each one of our searchers of the universe individually, looking at the stuff, and you go, I know you're telling me this, but let me check it on my own. Well, what does science woke mean? Well, science woke means knowing what in the established science is wrong. Criticalthinkers.info. Go there. You can see you're going to have to log in. You can't get there. We have on that page mainstream flaws, things that are wrong, things that are flawed in mainstream science. You'll be able to click on them, get a quick explanation of what they are, and papers and people who show these kinds of things. We're working on that. Believe me, that's the big push of our 2018 to 2019, the Critical Thinkers, Chappelle, Natural Philosophy of Society. Our goal is to make that website come out in the next year. Yes, we are working. And if you want to help out, let me know, because we need help anytime. So they also are saying what you want to do, being science well, is researching those problems that we mentioned on your own. That is, oh, you mean GPS doesn't support relativity? You hear about the theoretical stuff, but maybe if you read people like Ron Hatch, who has 30 patents, and you go watch my movie and hear him say, he basically says that GPS shows the flaws in relativity. It doesn't support it. So yeah, research problems on your own, and you want to discuss the new models. If you're being science woke, discuss new models and solutions. That's what means being science woke. Science woke subjects, and here we go. Let's talk about them. Steady state versus Big Bang. Big Bang, boy, there's just problems. And we've talked about this many times. The quickest one you can talk about is, well, it's expanding. Space and time and mass are expanding into what? Not space and time and not universe. They really do say that. They say that the universe is expanding, but the universe is expanding, and it's almost as if there's nothing out there, and it's not like void. It's not even void. That's crazy. The Big Bang, why does it start? Oh, there's so many problems, so many problems. Oh, CMPS 2018, Cameron Rigobasol, man, this guy, he had a really great one I never thought of. Well, if there's a Big Bang, shouldn't there be a big void? Because it's sort of exploding, everything sort of should be moving away. Why don't we? There's a big hole. Good point. Ultimate particle versus infinite levels. Well, I've talked about that. In fact, hopefully, if I remember, there should be a link right up here that'll talk about that, and that's the ultimate particle. If you have an ultimate particle, it's got to be magic to start organizing itself. You know, you can put all these attributes on it, but you have to think, well, how did they do that? Well, magic. No, it can't be magic. So that's one of the things a lot of us talk about is the infinite levels. There's infinite space, infinite levels up and down. Okay, and the particle zoo, of course, the particle physics particle zoo, you can throw everything out since the 1930s. That means yes. Goodbye quark. That means yes. Goodbye Higgs boson. What are they finding? Well, just the Machian, or look up and read all the books by Dr. Alexander Unziger. He and I are in total agreement. It's all a house of cards. Expansion tectonics versus plate tectonics. If you want to see it real quick, in a few seconds or in a minute, you're going to see the whole thing. Look up Neil Adams and Earth expansion. He's got a couple of million views on his most popular one, and you will see for yourself that, in fact, yes, the Earth's been expanding, and all those plates are actually being added to the. And that's why dinosaurs could be so big, because the gravity was only half that size. Oh my gosh, that's rocking a boat, isn't it? And of course, we have relativity problems. You can pretty much throw it away. There's thousands of papers on that, hundreds of books on this subject of relativity being wrong. So woke models. What are the woke models we talk about? Ether models were for light, and then they also put gravity in there. They try to put that in there as well. Particle model, Newtonian model, my dad and I's youtube.particle.guru. My dad talks about our model. Of course, lattice models, that's Bruce Nappy and other people have lattice models. I believe Ron Hatch talks about those too. And action out of distance models, Greg Bolt talks about that. And of course, we have how the establishment distracts us and keeps us asleep. Well, they say that the standard model, in fact, is not paradoxical. That there are no paradoxes in the standard model of particle physics, or in the Big Bang, or relativity, and plate tectonics. Yeah, we have paradoxes. Oh, what's a plate tectonic paradox? Well, if you have Pangea and everything's on one side of the Earth, if you put that in a model and you put water, and guess what happens with the water and the sloshing around in a rotating body? You get another island on the other side. That's a paradox. They don't talk about that. They say it's only on one side. That just gives you an example. There's lots and lots of them. Then they also say we're too stupid to understand the complexities of physics and cosmology. Why do they say that? Because there are paradoxes and there are complexities, but those complexities and paradoxes are because the theories are paradoxical. They're impossible to understand, and what you have to do is you have to capitulate. You have to pretend. But you also have nerds want to be loved and admired, so when they were in school and everybody's picking on them, like I was a nerd and I was picked on, that's for sure. I said to myself, I'm going to come up with a model of the universe and show everybody I'm really smart. You know, that's what they want to do. They don't care. Half of the people that I interviewed for my film, for my documentary in high school, said they would forego truth to get their position in life, their position at college or in a research institute. They don't care about truth. They just want to get, want to be loved and admired like everybody else, because nerds certainly are. And of course, nerds pretend to understand the paradoxical and illogical, and that's where you get that flip, where you get the person in Physics 101 and the person says in Physics 101, hey, as you get closer to the speed of light, mass increase in the physics students. Of course it does, and this is the reason why I can regurgitate. Just the engineering person's looking at you guys are nuts. This is all doesn't do us any good anyways. You guys are going to waste your time. That's fine. I'll pass it. Tell you, regurgitate the truth you told me, and not look back and go away from it, because this is crazy. The way people continue this craziness is you accept the paradox and the illogical, and you become a believer, even though inside you do not believe it yourself. So the Bernie Sanders of science. These are the Bernie Sanders of science. Dave Hilster actually said, hey Dave, you're the Bernie Sanders of science. Hey, I don't care. I'm not out for fame. And the only thing fame brings you is power, and power to do great things, not power to wheel upon other people. It's to do great things. You could, get critical thinking. We can make our university, university.nationalphilosophy.org, big, maybe even brick and mortar someday. That would be great. That's what power can bring. But right now, the Bernie Sanders of science, those people who are making you science woke, I've got me, myself here, all the other critical thinkers. We have numbers of channels, Jeffy, Bob D. Hilster, Nick of Time, and the Machian, and many others actually. Dissident, he's another guy out there. And of course, we have the CMPS, in my opinion, the best scientific organization on the planet. Why? Because you are totally freely, as long as it's decent science, that you're following the scientific method and it's logical, you can challenge the mainstreams. And of course, we have this question for you. Are you science woke? And remember what I always say, stay critical, stay thinking. I'm Dave D. Hilster. I am your science therapist. I hope you are becoming science woke. Ciao for now.